Welcome back to the Virgo Channel. My name is Laura. If you're new to my channel, I'm going to do a general message for Virgo. Know that energy is fluid. World could be reversed. Just interpret the message as it best resonates with you. Also know on this channel and all my channels, I like to dive deep within the reading. So I do look at everything, but we take time to look at the spiritual blocks, the shadows, to see how they play out as karmic themes to help you understand why everything's playing out the way that it is. If there's many different realities that play out at one time, why would you choose to live a reality that keeps you stuck in a place of not liking yourself? I mean, literally, karmic people come into our life to show us things that we usually don't like about ourselves. It's just the way that the universe or God, because God made the universe. So the universe works in accordance to God's laws. So it brings us what we need, not what we want. So if we grew up in really toxic homes where maybe there was an alcoholic or you just had an abusive parent, you had a very angry parent all the time, just one that didn't allow you to have your unique unfoldment process because they were judging your process because they had wounds. I mean, there's many different reasons why we, are imbalanced. The story isn't really as important as we make it. We tend to get stuck in the story. We tend to get stuck ruminating on what did happen, what could happen, all these scenarios. And, just a way to keep us detached, keep us disassociated, because what happens is we can't figure out the reason when we look at it from a logical and analytical standpoint. It doesn't make sense why a parent is abusive, why a person that you feel like is your soulmate, it treats you badly, right? Someone that you feel like is your person, why would they treat you badly? That doesn't make sense. And the reason why is because everything that happens in the physical world happens because of spiritual issues. So spiritual issues are really psychological and emotional. That energy is held in the body as stress. It's what determines our energy. So we're a magnet of whom and what comes into our life. So when we don't like experiences and they continue to play out, well, then the answer is to deal with those situations differently. But the problem is that we react. The trigger creates a reaction, and it's those reactions that keep us stuck in those patterns. That is what makes us perceive that there's something wrong. Now, remember, we all see what we look for. So when a person has a mindset that's negative, because of the experiences that they've gone through, they're going to unconsciously look for those same experiences as a survival mechanism. Because the mind doesn't know the difference between what is real, what's imagined, what's emotional threat, what's a physical threat. It doesn't, it just sees it as a threat. So we have to always bypass the reptilian mind to understand why everything's playing out the way that it is so that we can actually integrate the spiritual lesson. But integrating it isn't enough. We actually also have to take it a step further and transmute that negative energy. Otherwise, we have not embodied a new consciousness. We have not seen ourselves differently, and we have not seen the experience that we have lived through so many times before and not gotten the results that we wanted, not play out the way that we want. So that's why the transmutation process is usually important, because that's what changes the energetic template, which is the etheric layer of your aura. The etheric layer of your aura is the pain body. It's in alignment with that second chakra, which is all about your unique individuality, how balanced you are, your birthing center, because it's not just about birthing a baby, it's about birthing ideas into life. Okay, so when we're stuck in a fragmented part of ourself, A lot of times we're just not aware. It's like we live through an experience and we might not have thought that it was that big of a deal. We might have even thought that we've healed certain wounds, only to come back and be introduced to those wounds again. But understand, it's how we react to those wounds that is always going to be karmic. So it's important to see why. All right. Never know why I say what I say in the beginning of a reading. I just tend to let myself channel a little bit. Sometimes it's spiritual knowledge, sometimes it's actually about the reading. Who knows? Anything of any importance I reveal into the channel, you can find in the description box. I'm still waiting on those otter spirit bracelets. I am so excited. I got all abundance and prosperity and wealth, bracelets. That's what I get. That's what I'm doing for Christmas today, and you guys are going to get the 15% off. And we'll have Black Friday sale. So I'm really excited for them. I'm excited for myself because I'm gonna get, I'm gonna be getting some. All right. I like that company because, it's a win-win. You get a discount, and the otters get, money for their habitat. They were almost extinct in California, and this company got them out of extinction, that they were at that level, literally. Can't believe that when you think about it, that there are animals that are no longer on the planet that were on the planet when I was a kid. It's weird. It's weird to think that species can actually die off. But if the environment is not in alignment with what their needs are, of course, and that's the same thing for human beings, right? Because it's our environment that creates our reality. So when we're talking about collective, it is our habits and our behaviorisms that are affecting the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, all the different kingdoms of the world. We tend to not think about those other kingdoms, but there's karmic consequences when we don't. All right, so let's get to the reading already. The underlining energy is release, ancestral karma. Oh, you know that it's going to be a rough one. You know already it's going to be a rough one. You know why? Deep-seated wounds. Deep-seated wounds. And let me tell you what it is. It's psychological and emotional. Is the abuse is handed down. And so remember, your great, 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 great grandparents, some of them might have been on a plantation. Some of them might have tried to come over here, on the boat, and they were ridiculed and they had no money and they were really living in consciousnesses that it was because their environment. They felt that they had no control. Didn't mean that they weren't religious, but it meant that, again, that God was something outside of them. It was more like they used the Bible or any spiritual scripture, dogmatic practice as a way where it was all about obedience and, living humble and sacrificing a lot, because man made those spiritual scriptures. God himself did not write those spiritual scriptures. So when man makes things, it's always going to be not perfect because no one's perfect. So it's not a blame game. What I'm trying to explain is they didn't have the tools. They didn't have the spiritual tools. They didn't have tools to deal with anxiety. They didn't have tools to deal with what was going on in their environment. So again, what happens? People get anxiety. They deal with their anxiety and feelings of inadequacy through drinking, through rage, through being enraged, again, through taking it out on their children. Why? Because that's what, again, just how people tended to deal with things back in the day. It's they worked hard, unless you came from a place of that had a lot of money, like your ancestors had a lot of money and their life was cushy. It's not that they didn't have problems, but the majority of what we see on the planet today is people trying to clear their financial blocks and their relationship blocks. So the blocks are I can't have. That's the block. And so again, when we see ourselves as not being able to have, we begin to think that there's something wrong with us, that we feel that we're inadequate. So that's the core belief that I feel like needs to be released. You need to release that because that's what your parents felt and that's what their parents felt. But they were living in circumstances that were impossible. Try living through war. Try living through persecution. Try living through racism. Try living through all the ancestral. We're talking about the roots, but it's how strong is the tree is how strong and stable are the roots, right? So we can make ourselves look good on the outside, which is what people tend to do that have a lot of these spiritual blockages. Why am I saying? Because the root chakra, which is that first chakra, when we're talking about the spiritual body, and we're talking about our connection to the physical world, the physical body, God, all physical elements of the physical world. So when a person has a block within that first chakra, they don't have a good connection to the physical body, they don't have a good connection to the physical world, and they don't have a good connection to God. There's a lack of faith and there's no direction. So, and it's because of what was going on in the environment. It was what was happening. It was what they were taught. If you're only taught part of the information, you can't really make a good decision for you, right? That's why when people lie by omitting information, it's really bad because you can't make a decision based on truth. You're making it on the perception, and liars know this. So, it's again, we want to release ancestral karma because unfortunately, it's not just about the emotions that get stuck. It's and the behaviorisms is what happens in the physical body because everything that happens in the spiritual realm will manifest as physical issues, so physical things that play out. So we see poor relationships, but then when those relationships don't get fixed, we start to see them show up in the physical body. Again, because we're human beings, we're spiritual beings having human experiences. So the human experience is sickness when we're out of alignment with our true self. So I feel like you're connected to someone that is going through this energy and it's a past life connection. We know that because of oneness, right? So the deal is, though, you're not in that energy. You're actually in the gift of style. However, you are in connection to somebody that it's a past life connection that they triggered every single one of your wounds, every single last one of them. So it's with the past life connection is there's a lot of chemistry, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of passion, there's this instantaneous um, recognition, almost like you knew the person before. There's a lot of synchronicity. So you would think that that person would be your person, that they should give love, that they should give nurturing. No, this person that you were connected to actually had a lot of the behaviorisms that your parents had. Both parents have. So we get the same spiritual lesson. So we're going to see again how it plays out, but this is going to be a heavy reading. This is going to be a deep reading because Spirit's saying in order for you to manifest your own heaven on earth, you have to clear certain blockages. And those blockages are perceptions of separation, from separation between you and God, you and the divine. you and the universe, right? It's again in every single person in the universe. So it's a connection to the heart. And how do we give? We give and receive of love through our passion, through our individuality, through our creativity. So I feel like the gift of style tells us that you're in that energy. However, you still have this connection to this person that there's blockages that are preventing you from actually manifesting. So everything that's playing out in your life is actually playing out for a reason. Even though you're like, I don't like what's happening, I don't like where I am, I don't like how people treat me, like you just feel like the same spiritual lessons continue to play out. We're going to see what they are. Trust. Okay, so trust. Now, this person just after a while, like, they did too many things that you didn't trust them, but that's the main thing that happens with ancestral karma. You're going to see that people like your siblings, you're not going to have a good connection to your siblings a lot of times, or parents. There's again the weakness of the roots. And so the trust is parents didn't show up. Trust is, that they were not nurturing, that maybe they were even abusive, but on some level they didn't show up. So what are you getting? A person that didn't show up, you can guarantee for sure. For sure. So that is again in the root chakra support, because that's what the root chakra is. But how do we get support today? Through being in our physical body, through being connected to the world, right? But that's not, what happens when you're connected to a past life karmic mate that, is triggering every single button that's bringing up all this ancestral karma, which is played out as bad experiences within your life or perceptions of yourself that need to be healed. So again, those situations are being played out, and it's by the people in your environment. So you're not crazy in your perception, but you have to heal it differently. Remember, it says, be as wise as a serpent, but be as gentle as a dove. That's really hard to do when you're dealing with people that want to take you down, that don't like you for no reason, that want to exclude you, that want to keep you out, that want to make you feel less than. It's again, this is the ancestral karma. You're going to see oppression, you're going to see suppression, you're going to see victimization, you're going to see shame, you're going to see guilt, you're going to see all those lower consciousnesses that take you further away from a Christ consciousness, which is just the unconditional love, right? That's what the energy that we're supposed to be in. Unconditional love. That's not what happens with trust. Betrayal is what happens from it. Where again, it's not just betrayal, but I'm going to control you. Suppression, oppression. I'm going to dominate you. And guess what? It's not going to be in a way that's fair. It's again going to be one that puts you in a place of victimization. So again, you felt like you had no sense of control over your choices because all they wanted to do was dominate you. And so it's the ancestral karma. But God says no one can control you, only you can control yourself. But if the emotional connection and the psychological connection is strong, we can see how a person can fall prey. So Spirit saying again, and just this person just was dishonest, which you can see, omitting information, lying. So you could never make it's a way to dominate you, it's a way to control you. But we have to be able to discern. Discerning is the fact that spirit inside of you is telling you that you can't trust. And it's through how you feel about it. It's the clairsentient, which is, I don't know how I know, but I know it's claircognizance. But when you do the feeling, automatically it becomes claircognizance, which is, I don't trust. You have to listen to that though, which is the dishonesty. So it was all like, again, the same thing. And at the end of the day, this person cheated. and you just had enough of the abuse. And you just felt like, too, you got to a point where you, not just this person, you have a hard time of letting go of the past and the fears that are associated with it. So they manifest as chaos in the relationship where you attract people that betray. They either cheat, but they lie, they have bad character, all these lower emotions. And so this is obviously a healing reading because somebody feels very blocked within their life, is spirit saying. So it's not even a question of like, will I get back together with this person? Because I feel like you called this person, like, look, called them out on their stuff. You called their bluff. They didn't really want you to leave. They wanted to dominate. They wanted to control. They thought you'd go along with it. You didn't, and you're just at the point where you're like, why do I keep attracting this into my life? Why? What do I need to do to heal this? Because I don't even see you wanting that. It's like, and understand, doesn't even matter if the person has love or they don't. If you're getting a person that has these heavy energies, that means that they need to do healing. Otherwise your feelings are always going to be ignored. Always. Always. And you're always going to stay in a place of resentment. And though that's where the blockages are, those ancestral karma is rage, it's it's anger held within that center. And that is what creates the disconnect from the physical body because it doesn't feel good to be angry all the time because we have spirit inside of us. So which is God. So God's saying, well, you can't hold that energy inside and not think that there's going to be consequences. There's going to be consequences where you're going to be up in your head, and not until you clear it will you get the same experiences because it's about integrating the spiritual lesson. So it's not about that resentment is, like I said, is rage, but it's also fire, right? When that emotion. So what are we supposed to do with fire? Channel it. Channel it into purpose through the gift of style, which is what you're doing. And so again, it's not even a question of that. It's almost like, is there something else that I need to do? And so we look to see, and this is a little different style reading because at this point we know that the relationship is over. So Spirit says, well, being around a person and growing up with rage and anger and resentment, understand there's a lot of tight energy. Like you're not always going to be in your body. We have to be in a place of rest and digest. We have to be open to the universe. We have to be a clear conduit for spirit to work through. But if we're in a place of survival, well, then we haven't conditioned our nervous system very well. We're going to be hypervigilant, being connected to someone like this, where there was betrayal of cheating and lying and domination and all that. We have to, again, be in a connection, a better connection to our physical body because no one's going to save us. We got to save ourselves. And we can do that because we have spirit inside of us. So we always have discernment. We always have discernment. But then we also have to like recondition the nervous system because understand the body has already held the trauma. Your body holds the score to what's in your mind. So we can heal our mind and our body is not on board. I've had it happen. Like, trust me, it's like where you already know in your mind, but your body is still like giving the anxiety. And that's because we have to go through the experience to transmute that fire, which is that rage, that resentment. We have to make it into something positive. And so we have to start with the better connection to the body and through the breath to recondition the nervous system because your chakras are connected to your nervous system and your endocrinian system and to your skeleton system, really. Because that first chakra is what controls those centers. It's what gives you support. And so the support is really the better connection to the physical body. If you have a better connection to the physical body, you're going to be have a better connection to the physical world and to spirit, also to God. So, but we can't do that if we're in a place of survival, is what Spirit's saying. So we have to start where we are. And that might seem like, oh, I don't want to do that. And understand, like for people that have lived in survival, to slow down and do breath work, it's not comfortable. I know that from personal experience. It's not because we're used to going fast, fast, because of reactionary. And that thing is, you don't want to react because you'll be reacting from some previous experience that's not really even happening in the moment. And that's the thing, because your brain, the reptilian mind, is fast. Air energy, right? When we're talking about alchemy, we're talking about the mind is air, it's fast. Ideas. The grounding energy, hey, that's connected to the physical body, the physical world, how good we feel about ourselves. That's not as comfortable for psychic people. But I mean, and it's, understand you're gonna have blocks in one area or the other, but people that have blocks in that root chakra because of the ancestral karma is why you're not gonna have a good connection because of the rage and resentment. And if you grew up with that, it's not gonna be comfortable. Because you always feel like, did I do something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Because the parent is angry. So you don't want that because then you get into a relationship and then you're looking for that. And then eventually people are like, you know what? I'm going to make something wrong. You don't want that. So we want to not create our own self-fulfilling prophecy. We want to slow down. And again, and Spirit says, hey, and you know what? There might be some career changes. And it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It just might mean like you may do what you're doing, but it's going to change a little bit, that you need to tweak it. So you might be seeing these blockages within finance, within money, so the perception is that. And where Spirit's saying it's like, it's not bad. Or you might be taking up another side hustle, which will help you ground. It's not a bad thing here, but I feel like there's a career path change, and that could be, hey, you were a coach and now you're going to be a speaker, or hey, you were into TV, now you're doing radio. It's like something that you're still doing, you're just kind of doing it a little bit different, or doing your own thing, adding something to it to help you because there's a decision to make. Like, I feel like you could either, you know, choose to stay where you are or go into something 100% different. Like, but I feel like it's a lot of different changes for you, and you need changes because you can't heal in the same place that you got sick. So if it's about money, again, those spiritual blockages and people, and understand if you have a block in the first chakra, you will definitely have a block in the second chakra. And it's just because it's that foundation isn't strong. If we don't feel strong within ourselves, then we don't feel worthy enough. The second chakra is all about knowing who we are, feeling good about who we are, knowing. Again, who we are on a not just a spiritual level, but what we do for a living. So this is a change. And so I feel like this is what it is, that there's a lot of decisions that are going to be coming up in the near future. So it could be a job change or going into again, but I feel like it's not really a full change. I think that it's something little bit more than what you're doing. Like, so if, like I said, if you were in TV, now you're going into radio. If you taught workshops, now you're also going to do something else. You're collaborating. So it's so many opportunities that these decisions are you're going to have to make a choice because you can't do them all. is what Spirit says. So Spirit's saying, put more focus into your work, into becoming yourself. When you have this rage and resentment and anger, and you're not seeing yourself the way that Spirit made you, which is why the universe keeps bringing you these situations that are triggering you, including this relationship, this past life connection that brought it all up. Well, Spirit says you have to channel that fire into purpose, and you will, but slow down and make some tweaks within your career, and that you're going to have all other opportunities, but you're going to make different changes. Take time out to stretch. Now that might sound stupid, but again, no, we want to get back into the physical body. So some people have a day before their day. They set themselves up for success by having a daily practice. And their daily practice would be breath work, and it would be stretching, because there's a lack of connection to the physical body when there's a lot of root chakra imbalances, which we know because of the rage, resentment, betrayal, and ancestral karma. It's all part of that root chakra. So we're going to see again, the body isn't as flexible. So the Spirit says you have to start where you are. And you may think, well, it's if I have a problem in mind, why am I changing my body? Because you can heal your mind through healing your body. The same way that trauma conditions your body, well, you can recondition your body to change your mind. So it's a way to get back into the moment, the present moment, connect to your body. Because people that have rage and disassociation, I mean, rage and resentment, and all these ancestral karmic blocks, they also have, like, again, the detachment and disassociation disorder, which is why they attract people that can't show up for them. Because in a way, people that have detachment and disassociation disorder are not showing up for themselves. So remember, we're mirrors of who and what comes into our life. So this is why. So again, we're going to see more exercise. Spirit saying you got to get back into your body. Get out of your mind. We see what we look for. So that negative mindset of, well, people don't like me, or those opportunities aren't there, or whatever it is, it's Spirit saying, get back into the physical body. It's like, be in the moment. Only in the now do you get divine guidance through gut, intuition, inner knowing. The whole rumination is going to bring you down. And so again, we want to recondition. We have to change. We have to change. And the Spirit says, and that takes healing. So you might have said, well, I thought that I healed already. I thought that I healed already. And the Spirit says, sometimes we think that we healed, and we did heal part of it, but we didn't heal enough of it. Where Spirit's saying this is about you healing. Then you'll see the changes within your finances. Again, root chakra imbalance. That root chakra is that ancestral karma of lack, limitation. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. Where, again, the lack of connection to the physical world is abundant. You are abundant because you have Spirit and the universe inside of you. You have God inside of you. So you have supernatural powers if you're in alignment with God's laws. You have to be in alignment. And so the lack of support, but then you have to create that support. And that's going to take time. And mainly probably through cleaning out a lot of, what no longer serves you. Letting go of what no longer serves you. That it's a process. And so it's the process that a lot of times that we don't want to, just let go of people in our lives, right? No one wants to do that. But the more that you heal And the more that you invest in yourself and ground, the more that certain people are just not going to resonate with you anymore because you're not in that energy. You're changing yourself, right? And you only have so much time, energy, focus, and money. And so those are your resources. And when we're rooted, meaning we have a strong root chakra, we know how to work with those energies well. So, we don't want to waste it. So Spirit's saying, I feel like that's what it is. It's like right now that it seems like nothing's happening. You're like, nothing's happening. It's like, but Spirit says you're actually still healing. And you know that you're still healing because certain experiences keep playing out. And you're like, I want those experiences to change. And if I would just change with my job would just change and I would just have more finances, those experiences would change. And Spirit says it's actually the other way around. Like the finances and those experiences aren't happening because of how you're perceiving yourself. It's the blockage that of how you're seeing yourself, that you're seeing yourself separate from me. And again, God, your supernatural energy, like if you don't have a clear vision for yourself, you can't make that supernatural energy work for you. If it's just, hey, I'm just going to show up and you know, do my job with no direction, which is why Spirit says, "Oh no, you're going to be getting a lot of opportunities, and you'll be going in a new direction within your job shortly." It's again, but you have to heal these things, which is again the ancestral karma, which makes you feel inadequate, which makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. Spirit says you have to take that fire and that rage and you got to pour it into yourself. And channel it into purpose. Because again, you can't just get rid of that energy and it'll turn into cancer if you don't. Because ancestral karma, that betrayal, that resentment is heavy energy. It's heavy energy. You gotta clear it. You gotta clear it. And Spirit says, and that's why you have a lot of healing protocols within the physical body, Spirit saying. Otherwise, it's just not gonna happen. This person is just a representation of that, which is like you were already told, you already know. It's like at this point, Spirit is saying, where you may be at when I pick up these cards, listen, you have things to deal with before you can love again. And that's so the answer is what Spirit's saying. It's like that this is healing. And guess what? You may be connected to someone that was in this energy, and thank God you didn't fall prey to it. So you're not in that, like, dealing with that type of heavy karma. Because let me tell you something, that being with that person would have put you in worse energy. You're still dealing with certain things, but it's doable, Spirit says, because you can channel it. It's like you can't change people and how they're going to treat you. However, you cannot be triggered by them and deal with the situation differently because understand a new opportunity is going to come to you anyway. And then it's not going to mess up your opportunity. So not being good to a person that doesn't treat you well now, even though they deserve it, will create karmic consequences for you later, is what Spirit's saying. So you have to handle it differently because there's new opportunities on the horizon. You have to heal this because your money's coming. All right. So, but you are the creator of your life. I don't predict the future. So you could also be with this person and ruin your life. Do whatever you want to do. I don't predict here. However, if you are love yourself, and hopefully if you landed on this channel, you're saying, no, I want to heal. I want to change. I want to see different. I want to see different in me. I want to see different in the world. Well, then you're in the right place. I mean, sometimes a person does come back, but in this story, it was automatically no. Absolutely no. It's a hard no. And it's because you saw the writing on the wall, and you said, I'm not dealing with it. So we have to say, what are the words? We see loner, we see neglect, we see rage. There it is, there it is, there it is. We see anchor, no support. We see truth. We see space. And then we see innocence. And one more, and we see abandonment. So, I mean, neglect is pretty much the same thing as abandonment. And so I feel like there was just no support. There was no support, and I saw anchor somewhere. There it is. It's an anchor. So like father like son, like mother like daughter, no support, neglect, abandonment, but how was the abandonment? And the neglect was really rage. The parent was angry just all the time, not happy. That ancestral karma. Again, victim state mindset. So it's again not that those people didn't live through those experiences, they did. But those are the karmic consequences. We're all born into collective karma. We're all born into ancestral karma. And it's because we had to learn. We have to learn. And we're learning that we're not separate from our creator, from God, from the universe. We actually have the sun and the stars and the moon inside of us. We have supernatural power. But if we have this rage inside of us because we feel inadequate. Again, we're stuck in the perception. Well, then Spirit says, well, then you were a loner though most of the time because it was easier because, hey, I don't really feel comfortable with people. People think that I'm weird. People think where Spirit says, no, it's again, you think that you're weird. And people may think that that may be a little different, but again, once people get to know you, you just again have to live your truth. And I feel like you always lived your truth, but you didn't get good results around, the parents. And now it's to be like not to care is what Spirit says. Be like a child, like children are innocent. Your innocence was robbed. And so, you still live your truth, but because your innocence was robbed, because you had a parent that was rageful, which means that they belittled you, they neglected you, they tried to make you feel bad about yourself. Spirit says you didn't create anything. There's a lot of space here because if we are not putting our time and our energy into like becoming ourselves or doing something though that's productive, well, then what are we doing? We're kind of wasting it maybe on hanging out with people, trying to get our emotional fulfillment from, connections, which those connections are never going to last. Not when there's ancestral karma, because there's a lot of rage and resentment and betrayal. So what'll happen is either you'll betray someone or someone will betray you. And it's like it'll be either one. And if it's you're on the receiving end of the betrayal, then you feel like, hey, there's something wrong with me. And that when really Spirit's saying, no, you're not present, you're not in your body. If you're thinking about things, then there's a lack of connection to the body, then people can perceive that. They can perceive whether you're present, whether you're proactive. They can feel your passion. They can feel what's true and what's not. And so Spirit's saying this space needs you got to create in that space. You need to put something in that space because you're not nothing, because that's what'll happen if you grew up with a lot of ancestral karma where there was like rage and anger and resentment, and then you didn't like yourself, then habits and behaviorisms are going to be in alignment with that. And so you've healed through the gift of style, but you're still going through certain things, and Spirit saying, don't worry, there's a new job coming. But hey, there's karmic test before that opportunity. So don't fall prey, because remember, the devil also knows where your weaknesses are, and it doesn't want you to co-create, but only you can stop you. So you would stop you by getting triggered and reacting to like what you're seeing, where it's like it's not that you're not seeing that, but we have to handle it differently and have faith. And that might be, and it's as simple as that, having faith, where you're like, how am I supposed to have faith? You know, it's when you're seeing everything in the environment, and Spirit says that's the whole point of faith. You have to, again, bust the chains, release the limiting beliefs that no longer serve you. And that tells us, again, what needed to be done. And that's just because, you know, like you're in the situation that I feel like, yeah, you're not choosing that, like that person, and you are creating, but you're not seeing the money and you're not seeing those things, and you feel like there's something wrong. So the limiting belief is that there's something wrong, and Spirit says there's nothing wrong. The perception that you feel like there's something wrong is the first sign of that trigger. Something's wrong. And but it goes back to maybe I'm doing something wrong. And the Spirit says, get back in your body. You're not doing anything wrong. It's like you're looking for something to be wrong. So again, you're hyper vigilant. Don't look for something wrong. There are infinite possibilities for you. Release fear. The fear is that resentment, that betrayal, that rage, all those lower energies, release it. And the Spirit says, and it's time to fulfill your promise, that there's a reason why you're down here in physical form. We're down here to be the expressions of love, to see that there's no separation from us and our Creator, that we can actually create our heaven on earth, that we can have everything that we want. We can have that, but we have to be clear in what we want, and we also have to release those blockages. Otherwise, we stay in the karmic loop, which is what you feel when Spirit says it's not. Continue to be you. Live live authentically and true to yourself. Why? Because you're a magnet of who and what comes into your life. So when you live out loud, and you're not afraid to be yourself, well, not everyone's gonna like you, but it doesn't matter because you're not $100 bill. It doesn't matter about that. So what it is, Spirit saying, is time to go into the unknown, where you find new aspects of yourself. There's a lot of space. You weren't created. You didn't create yourself. Again, that ancestral karma, that's what it does. The lack of roots, meaning there's no anchor, there's no support, that parent's angry, so you're being neglected and you're being treated badly, and it just because the parents stuck in their trauma. And so Spirit's saying, create, because you're not nothing. And the brain will never say that you're nothing. It'll say you're defective, that you can't have. Spirit says you have to let go of who you were to become who you actually are. Still walking around with those limiting beliefs that no longer serve you. And we're going to leave off with be vulnerable. And that's really hard to do, because a lot of times, like, the world will tell you who it wants you to become for the comfortability of the environment. But Spirit says, be true to you, be authentic. You're going to have to be vulnerable by putting yourself out there, but the universe corresponds to your heart, to your passion, to your love of what you do. If there needs to be tweaks, believe me, God will know it's going to bring like whatever it needs to tweak you, to change you, to heal you. But Spirit says there's so many opportunities on the horizon. Don't give up. Don't be angry. Don't get triggered by what you see, because as you are in the gift of style, you're going to release old negative energy, and so that you can actually step into these new experiences. But you're being tested, and the test is faith. How faithful are you? The Spirit says, will you be faithful enough to be vulnerable? And that's You have to in order to let go of those perceptions of who you were, because you were never those things. But again, the environment will allow you to think that you're those things. You get to choose who you are. And we pull one more card, which is being true. Again, Spirit says it again, be authentic, be true. And that's be true to yourself and others. Remove the mask and stop creating illusions. Have confidence in who you are and reveal the good in you. Do not need to hide or prove anything to anyone. However, some people will try and make you prove to them, because they don't trust. But you don't have to. You'll find your crowd. It may not be the crowd that you think that it will be in, but as long as you put the energy out there the best way you know how, believe me, Spirit will bring you what you need to, as long as it's in alignment with the laws of the universe and the laws of God, the laws of nature, all the same thing. So do not need to hide or prove anything and replace shame, which again, that ancestral karma, that rage is shame with love and truth. So Spirit says, always be true to you because the kingdom of heaven's inside of you. And if you can imagine it, you can create it. Be authentic, be true, because the universe will always support you and love you, even when you perceive no one else is. That's how you get to see real support, that you show up for yourself, regardless that you didn't have an anchor. And maybe that's the reoccurring karmic theme. I never have the support where Spirit says, well, I've always supported. But you may say, well, I don't get it within people. And Spirit says, you don't need to. You don't need anything outside of you as long as you believe in me, the God that's inside. I'm going to leave that there. You let me know how you resonated, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.